Creators. What happens when you sink deeper than pain can go? Tonight, you're going to meet a young man named Brian. Brian was just broken up with, and the person he loved just moved on. Even though Brian's relationship ended, every morning, Brian starts the relationship all over again in his mind. He keeps replaying the memories, the future he thought they'd have, the final conversation. But like Brian, what keeps us suffering isn't the person we lost. It's the part of us that refuses to move on. That's why tonight we're exploring something different. We're not talking about how to forget or how to move on faster. No, instead, we're talking about what happens when you stop chasing a story and sink deeper into consciousness itself. That's why Brian isn't just here to tell his experience. Brian is here as your mirror. Because life has torn people from all of our lives and made us hold on to relationships longer than our hearts needed to. Keep it locked. Because tonight, we discover what happens when awareness becomes deeper than loss. And without further ado, if you're ready to live free beyond fear, welcome here. I'm Dr. Shawn, and I believe you do not need years to heal. You just need one real breakthrough. That's why I invented Transcendent Psychology, and I tested in the real world on real people on my game show, Countdown to Breakthrough, the only game show that heals your soul. Right now, you're on the Breakthrough Live, where we break down the science of healing so that you get your own breakthrough live. On today's show, we're working directly with a man named Brian. And tonight, our conversation, as we stretch, Brian is, of course, going to set up our conversation when we go into our laboratory experiment. Tonight's laboratory experiment has to do with that central question: what happens when we sink deeper into awareness? What happens when you sink deeper into awareness? I've got to say, last week on the Breakthrough Live, as we were working with this awareness question, I started having multiple breakthroughs throughout the week. I want to tell you about that when we come back. Let's first start by going into the field and speaking with Brian right now. Here we go.
And you'll be up here with us? Oh, excellent. All right, Brian. So I'm here with Brian. This is Countdown to Breakthrough. And right now, Brian, in order for this game to work, I need you to tell me one thing that is happening in life that you find difficult to let go of. It can be anything, a big thing or a small thing, but one thing that's just hard to let go of.
Maybe a person that hurt me in the past.
Okay, that's real. That's real. Okay, so when did you notice that that person was still lingering in your mind?
Definitely shortly after. I thought I'd had enough mental capacity to get over it, enough healthy sort of ways to move forward. But then, of course, those feelings keep, creeping back up.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, there was a relationship that passed, but somehow you're holding on to it in some sort of way, and it's affecting you emotionally. So let's work with that. 7 minutes on the clock. Let's begin right here. I keep jumping my pen. It's not player.
There's a mic, so you can
Oh, cool.
just hold on to it.
Okay.
Yeah, you could just hold it, and literally just hold it like as if it was a real mic.
Can I clip
This
it?
would be a good spot. Yeah.
Sure.
Boom.
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay. So, Brian, take a look at this pen. Okay. And right now, with this pen, no matter what happens, do not take your eyes off of this pen. This entire exercise. Right now, take a deep breath in and feel your oxygen fill up your lower belly in all directions. Inhale. Exhale. Excellent. Inhale. Excellent. Exhale. Wonderful. Right now, become aware of as many sounds as possible. Name one sound that you hear.
People walking.
Excellent. Name another.
Leaves under their shoes.
Beautiful. Name another.
Voices.
Excellent. One more. Keep your eyes on the pen.
Children.
Excellent. You're done. Here's the thing, Brian. When you were just looking at that pen, were you thinking about the past or the future?
Not at all.
Not at all, right? Okay, so we call that being in the present moment. It's not in the past, it's not in the future, and you're just here right now. In that moment, in that present moment, how did your body feel?
I would just say calm.
Okay. Did you notice any stress or agitation that you were holding on to?
Not at all.
Ooh. Did you notice that you were holding on to the baggage that person was attached to?
No, of course not. Not in this moment.
That's so interesting. So if you're not holding on to any baggage, no stress, no resentment, then that would by definition mean that you had already let go just by being in the present moment. And so can you remind yourself anytime that those old ideas come up, those old thoughts come up, to just ground yourself back in this present moment? Because the reality is did we have to go buy this moment from anywhere? Did we have to go purchase the present moment from anywhere?
Of course not.
So
It's here.
Oh, is it? Okay. Is it always here or is it sometimes here?
It's always here.
Okay. So if it's always here, can you come back to it
Of course.
and still find that peace?
Oh, yeah.
So that's our mind game. Thank you so
Excellent.
much for playing. I really appreciate you.
No, thank you. I needed it more than I thought I did.
Beautiful, my friend. Beautiful. You know what? When this comes out, Brian, I want you to be able to see it. Do you have
Sure.
an email? I can
do.
send you? Okay, I'll grab my pen.
Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show. Folks, this week was so interesting. First of all, let me shout you out in the room. Twin, I see you. Twin, I see you. Evening Earth citizens, may this wonderful energy Dr. Shawn has tonight be of use. Absolutely. Other twin is saying, oh, it literally just started raining here. That means abundance in more than one way. May knowledge be soaked up. Absolutely. My Queen Felicity is in the chat, folks. That means we are officially ready to begin. You know, this past week, I'm telling you, the thing about the Breakthrough Live is I get my breakthroughs live on this joint and in ways that I could not foresee. As you know, every time we enter into the laboratory, the conscious transformation laboratory, which we will see tonight, of course, and we're answering our research question, I get to be taken back to these meditations, these exercises that are psycho-spiritual in nature, but I don't exactly know what's going to happen. The words are coming out of this instrument, but they're not just mine. You know what I'm saying? They're coming from someplace else, right? And so all I know is that after we get done, there is something that deepens in me during the week. This week was no exception. Here's what happened. I'm out for my jog, right? And I don't know if you got one of these minds, but I got one of these minds where I've been playing with the AI stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all saw tonight. I've been playing with some of the AI, you know what I'm saying, protocols, Higgs field, just kind of trying to see what things look like. And I was working on a joint for Breakthrough Turtle. Y'all meet Breakthrough Turtle later on tonight if you've not met him before. But I was working on a little intro for Breakthrough Turtle, so when he come through, it makes sense. And like the AI, it fed me this image of like this turtle, and it like opened its chest and there was like another chest inside of it. Dude, it was like one of those images that once you see it, it's like grotesque. You ever heard like nails on a chalkboard? You know how that sometimes irritates people. For me, it's always like cardboard rubbing together. I don't like the sound of that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just one of those things that just, oh, like when I see a visual like that, it made me feel kind of sick to my stomach just to see it. It's just a little AI image. It was just a sort of a mutated version of what the AI thought I wanted, what the protocol, the platform thought I wanted, and it didn't look right. It looked awful. It looked, the image that kept coming to my mind is that this thing looked cancerous. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was like, as I'm sitting here looking at this image, I throw it away, delete it, forget about it, no problem. I'm on my run this past week, and that image pops up in my head during mid run. It's like beautiful, sunny. You know what I'm saying? There's so many other things to look at, so many other things to experience, and yet there was this one image. And because the image looked like it was uh like Breakthrough Turtle had some sort of tumor, bro, it was like Breakthrough Turtle, the actual figure I've had since 1995. You know what I'm saying? So, probably actually like 93. So since I was probably about 4 years old, right? And so when I see this figure, it makes me think of the people that I knew at that time, some of the most special people in my life. One of my cousins, his name was Jason. Um, one of these cool dudes who was like, the flat tops in the 90s. He got cancer. And back in 2020, it was in the middle of COVID, he passed away from cancer. This is not even a first cousin. This is my mom's cousin. He just happened to be so much younger than all of them that he was, you know what I'm saying? He was about 15 years older than us, 16. But somehow the linkage between Breakthrough Turtle, which is Ninja Turtle, the 1990s, my cousin, and cancer, and that AI image that triggered off, it like sent like this ripple effect. It was as if it was this mm, like bomb that set off a cascade of meaning through my mind and through my body, to the point where I started feeling weaker as I'm running, based off of my thoughts being geared toward illness, my thoughts being geared toward sickness, and of course to my cousin and to people that were lost to cancer. And so that was it was like it was tough trying to get the image out of my mind. And so tonight we were working with a young man named Brian who was talking about losing a relationship, but for me it was like, losing that relationship with my cousin, this wonderful man who was like, you know, this when he passed away, the newspapers in Anderson, Indiana, did a cover story on him and just talked about him as a community man. And I mean, I couldn't sit and talk to you about all the things that this man meant to me, but just one of these fly brothers that just knew how to, you know what I'm saying? They like knew how to get to the money, but also knew how to take care of people, and people looked to as a voice of reason, and like all these beautiful things. And so he was one of those people that you were like honored to be related to. You feel me? And so I was like, okay, when he got sick and I started watching his body kind of diminish, that was real tough. Uh, Especially as I was growing in knowledge and understanding that, okay, the hospitals they're doing, I guess, what they know how to do, you know what I'm saying? But they're, you know what I'm saying? They weren't providing the level of care that I wanted them to have. And I started watching him psychologically spiral. You know, I remember asking him one time, I was like, man, what do you, he's been diagnosed. He knows that he's got months, maybe 90 days. And I'm like, man, how are you sleeping at night? Like, your daughter's in college, your wife's sitting there next to you. She don't know how to console you. Like, what are you, how are you dealing with this, right? And he was like, man, some nights I just don't sleep. I was like, man, gee. And so I remember 2019, I had just graduated with a PhD and I was about to go into sales. And I was inspired to go into sales from him, you know what I'm saying? And so, because he was a medical sales technology device, dude. Um, and I go to see him in his house and he's just so skinny and he's just so small. And I just remember leaving that home, getting my final hug in, and I knew it was about to be the last one. And I remember leaving, they lived about 30 minutes outside of Indianapolis. So uh, I remember just leaving. I remember turning back and kind of looking at him and, as he's shutting the door and he's just so frail. And so sometimes I try and put myself into the mindset of somebody who is like that, who is ill in that way, but hasn't necessarily seen what we've seen. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't know about other dimensions. You know what I'm saying? Hasn't done the sort of inner work of um in such a way as to be freed from the fear of death. So sometimes I go back in my mind, I'm thinking like, whoa, what would you at a point you would have to surrender. At a point, okay, the chemo ain't working, you know what I'm saying? Well, then we about to go ahead and wrap this up. At a point you would have to, you know what I'm saying? At a point, you would have to get to a level of spiritual clarity. I don't care who you are. At a point there has got to be a sense of, okay, then I guess we relax and allow nature to take its course. At a point, any sane person, any wise person would be like, all right, here we go. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I don't necessarily get too wrapped up in that, but it's just the idea that as I'm running this past week, I haven't thought about this in years, you know what I'm saying? But that dang on AI image just triggered this psychological bomb of meaning, and it cascaded across. It went from AI visual turtle to wait, turtle 1990s to, oh wait, I have family in the 1990s to, oh wait, one of my family members I love died from cancer, and that is kind of what this AI turtle is reminding me of. I know it's a long way to get there, but that's the trigger effect. That is the cascade in meaning to the point where this idea, this memory over here of this loss, it started affecting me physically as I'm running it. Bright sunny day, Austin, Texas. You know what I'm saying? It's bright, ain't not a cloud in the sky, and I'm, you know what I'm saying, otherwise enjoying myself. But there's this memory, there's this taintedness, and I was like, ooh, okay. Oh, okay, okay. I'm starting to feel energy seeping out of my body as if I were myself inviting the very illness in. You dig what I'm saying? And so I was like, oh no, 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 no. We got to stop this. I don't know. I don't want to see where it can go. You dig what I'm saying? I don't need to see too much more. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm already seeing that placebo or not, I'm psychologically moving into a place that is out of the health capacity. And frankly, it's out of the present moment, right? I was in the past. Getting this growing concern about the future. Uh-oh. And the mind starts sending a signal to the body to deplete itself. So I was like, oh, okay, got to do something about this. That's when I thought about last week's breakthrough live. And here was the breakthrough on the run, champ, on the run. Because I was able to see that last week, of course, we talked about in our exercise, our laboratory experiment, if you remember, it had us diving deep into awareness itself, And we were talking about giving up expectation and abiding as this awareness. Okay, great, 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 great. That lucid conversation, that lucid sensation and feeling from last week followed me into this week. And so even though I was having this random moment of energy leakage because of one image that triggered this cascade effect of meaning throughout my body, throughout my body mind ecosystem, there was enough awareness to watch the process unfold. So what I'm saying is that based off of last week, we were abiding as this awareness. Everything that was flowing to us was flowing before us. And we could just remain aware. We were not attaching ourselves to any thoughts. We were just allowing thoughts to flow. We were not grabbing on to any story. We were just allowing sensations to flow. That very lucid spot is what I started applying during this run. As I'm running, there is this greater awareness that is simply abiding. And it's watching this process unfold. It's watching how one AI image gives rise to a thought, and that thought gives rise to a cascade of memories. I said, oh my God. I said, oh boy. Oh boy. Dude, let me see if I can. I'm trying to slow this down so I can make it make sense. If we have this capacity to be aware, remember last week, we are aware and we are noticing that whatever we are aware of doesn't affect the awareness itself. Nothing ever affects our capacity to be aware, right? So even in deep sleep, you're still aware that there is no dreams. You know what I'm saying? You're still aware. No matter what happens, you are still aware. In fact, if awareness disappears, reality disappears. We covered that. But what's so interesting is that as I'm sitting here watching how one image, one memory can trigger a whole host of sensations and feelings, and those sensations and feelings can themselves trigger another host of sensations and feelings at a deeper level, a level that we typically do not place our attention on. And when that happens, we can end up with developing certain assumptions about reality, certain proclivities, certain attachments to the way we think things are, to the way we deeply feel things are that are uninspected and assumed. Those assumptions can turn to beliefs. Those beliefs begin to guide our operating system, our thinking, and our behavioral patterns. You understand? I wrote it down in the breakthrough. This is one of those moments where I'm going to go to the breakthrough board. I'm sorry, to the breakthrough binder. As you know, I get these downloads from spirit, right? And I put everything inside of this binder, and I've got binders and binders and binders full of things. Eventually they'll become books, and that's great, but it takes years in order to accumulate the kinds of insights that we're talking about here. But let me at least read this. July 1st, 2026. After last Sunday's breakthrough live, typically these are written in the middle of the night. Typically they're written at like 4 in the morning when I just happen to wake up and I'm like, oh my God. But after last Sunday's breakthrough live, I realized that being aware of thoughts and feelings is only one part of the puzzle. Each thought and feeling leave a cascading effect of resonance throughout the body mind ecosystem. If left without attention, these subtle feelings and ideas and perceptions can codify as habituated reactions, interacting with subconscious beliefs and coloring how you see the world. Awareness must not just go to the initial thought and emotion. This is the big one. Typically, we say, okay, become aware of your thoughts, become aware of your emotion, right? Become aware of what's presenting itself to you. And I think we tend to stop at the superficial. Well, if we being 100% real, most people aren't doing that. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about the people who have decided that they want to go deeper and to understand the nature of reality. So even those folks, we look at a thought, we look at a feeling, we don't tend to look at the offspring. We don't see how in the moment a particular thought will give rise to a sequence, a bevy of other thoughts, a bevy of other sensations, feelings, emotions. They become so subtle that you barely notice them. And the standard human is not even noticing this process at all. But even I'm talking about the person who's been meditating for 10 years, 15 years, 16 years, like myself, has a tendency to only look at that surface level. We're not seeing exactly how, in the moment that you have a thought, what network of thoughts and feelings and sensations and inner reactions get triggered within you. It happens like this. So fast. You need to be able to see the entire cascade fluttering effect when you can. Here's what happens. Let me continue on, like as I'm writing this, because I'm getting excited. Awareness must not just go to the initial thought and emotion it produces. Awareness must also go to the second and third and fourth order thoughts generated. So the every thought, you can think of it has a first order consequence, a second order consequence, a third order consequence, and a fourth order consequence. Each one of those cascading through the body mind ecosystem as a network. I said, oh, dang. Okay, so look, awareness must also go to the second and third and fourth order thoughts generated by any thought or emotion ringing in the body mind ecosystem. If you can put awareness on the thought and feeling, you can see them as but a passing thought or feeling. But only if you could put that awareness there. Otherwise, it starts to seep into the level of taken for grantedness. It starts to seek into the level of, oh wait, yeah, this emotion is just as real as skies and clouds and atmospheric pressure, and it just starts to blend into your entire concept of reality. And in that way, it becomes reified. That word reified just means you turn it into something real. You make it a thing. That's why when we put that awareness on thought and a feeling, particularly, and their second and third and fourth order consequences, the offspring of any thought or feeling as it enters the ecosystem, that allows for us to partition truth from falsehood. But if you fail to pay attention, then subtle sensations can become a way of seeing and a way of believing in the world. You may confuse the false for the truth and so get lost defending yourself from illusions, cataloged as unconscious assumptions in your own mind. I'm getting goosies, Pimpin'. Look at this. You may confuse the false for truth and so get lost defending yourself from illusions, cataloged as unconscious assumptions in your own mind. Mm. Th- Think about how this relates to Brian. We saw him tonight saying, well, yeah, I tried to do some little techniques and some things to kind of get this person out of my mind, but and I thought I had enough healthy ways to kind of get over it, but I didn't. And if you consider myself in that moment when I was seeing that when I was seeing that AI image, that abomination of an image that set off this network effect of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and they were so subtle. Yeah, I can tell. Ooh, I got that image in my mind. Oh gosh, I don't like that. Anybody can do that part. That part is normal. Rejecting a thought, saying, "Oh, I don't like what's going on here." That's the normal part. It's also the beginning of suffering. The second part of saying, "Wait, what actually is happening inside of my body?" That this thought, like what is the actual chain of events that are occurring once this thought echoes in my mind? Once this thought is made conscious within my psyche, what happens next? And then what happens after that? And then after that, and then after that, and then after that, I got to know. So as I sat with this, I started seeing that, oh, if I can put my attention, what I started seeing was, yes, there was this image that I rejected. I didn't like it. And then that gave rise again to this feeling of illness, of sickness. And that feeling began to become real for me. And it started depleting my strength, which made me start thinking about people that I lost, which made me start thinking about the nature of the body, the mind, and if I was somehow dooming myself to repeat what others had been through because I couldn't free my mind from the thought of illness. So I said, okay, place the awareness there. If the initial thought, just look at this abomination of an image that was causing all this initial starting image that was causing all of this trauma. Just look. And I was just looking. Now also look at the emotions that are appearing as a result of seeing that image. I start seeing the emotions, and everything starts to become just like a movie on a screen. No concern for if the actors in the movie are going to jump up out the screen and come get you. It was just a simple, oh yeah, it just happens to be on. It just happens to be a flow of programming, which is actually a good word. It's just a flow of programming. Okay. See it? See its chain of reactions, folks. See its chain of reactions and let all of it exist inside of this awareness. If we can do that, I started seeing that there was an immediate peace because that was the big breakthrough of last week was that, wait, if whatever I can see, if it doesn't affect who I truly am, then I'm unaffected by it, which means that there is this peace. It can come, it can go. It's just a movie. It's just something that's kind of playing and then it's done. But the same thing is true, just as we had that one breakthrough me personally, just as I had that one breakthrough last week. I started seeing that same idea relates to this deeper dimension too, where a thought can occur and it will give rise to a entire plethora, a pantheon of other thoughts and emotions. It's just that most of the time, nearly 90% of the time, I say, 98% of the time for most humans, but 90% of the time for even for people who've been doing deep inner work, we can miss that chain of events. We can miss that chain reaction. And so we might catch maybe the first one or two parts. We might catch the image, but we don't see all of the other beasts that were unleashed inside of our body mind ecosystem. Consider what I'm telling you tonight. Why did why did I write this book? Let me show you this. Look, we always start with supreme awareness, and then we come down over to the Idon mind, and then we go over to faith, right? So supreme awareness is what we started with, what we're talking about right now, this idea of we start at consciousness. But then I started moving us over into the I don't mind, which just means I don't mind. It's a series of practices not unsimilar to NLP, if you ever heard of neuro linguistic programming. It really is basically non duality meets NLP, right? That is like a core idea behind that's 2/3 of what this is. You dig what I'm saying? And then there's another third, and then putting it all together, of course, is the original idea. But I only put the strategies of the Idon mind in place because I could not personally. I started seeing that okay, you can be this awareness, but you can still have thoughts that bother you. You can remain as this awareness, but then you can still have thoughts that bother you. Like, okay, if you say, all right, yeah, just are you aware? It's like, yeah, I'm aware. All right. And you still remembering, you know what I'm saying, how that person hurt you when you were 6, you know what I'm saying? Like there was still kind of like I started seeing that I needed help, and I started seeing that other people needed help in making use of this greater faculty called supreme awareness, right? Okay, you can be aware, and okay, we got you to that stage, but then if you're still having uncomfortable thoughts and uncomfortable feelings, we need to do something about those, which is why the I don't mind practices were even developed in the first place, where we strip belief from thoughts. And of course, there's massive peace in that. But all of this is assuming that you do not know how to catch these second and third and fourth and fifth order consequences. These second and third and fourth and fifth order thoughts and feelings that detonate in response to any individual thought or feeling you're having. So for me, it's kind of like, well, dang, one thing I'm happy about is that I catalog my journey, you know what I'm saying? So somebody doesn't have to go meditate for 16 years before they can get to the same point and then start YouTube videos where they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to do all that. But I apparently did have to do all that in order to get to a place where I'm like, oh, awareness by itself is really the final answer. I mean, it's the first and final answer. Different ways to approach it, of course, and of course, even in this book, we talk about supreme awareness, but we start at supreme awareness, and then we always flow back to supreme awareness. You dig what I'm saying? So we always start and stop with awareness. But along the way, this book was about helping people be able to find peace from negative thoughts, no matter what your experience level is. And what I'm saying is that today, the deeper understanding here is that awareness itself, appropriately applied, naturally lends itself to a peaceful state where you're not fighting thoughts, naturally lends itself to a peaceful resonance where peace becomes the inner experience becomes the outer experience. Your inner experience becomes reflected in your outer experience, in which case it is a faith practice as well, a manifestation practice as well. Get the awareness part right, and everything else gets right. Everything else gets right. And of course, once we understand awareness, we can begin to start to ascertain love. You understand? Because if awareness is the ground of reality, love is merely reality felt, the totality of reality felt. When I say love, I'm talking about the end of separation. When we say we love someone, we're saying, I feel one with you. And so love is oneness. But that oneness is the other name for it is just awareness. The fact that awareness and reality go together, they are one. Okay, we understand this. So for me, I was just like, dude, what a week. It has taken almost 2 decades to come to that, to see that, oh, wait, that's how this works. That's how the flow of these ideas and sensations work. That every single thought and emotion that we have gives rise almost immediately to a whole bevy of other thoughts and emotions. And if we are inattentive, then those secondary and tertiary thoughts and feelings, the ones that fly just under the conscious radar, they become taken for granted components of reality itself. We just assume that, oh, these negative feelings is it goes with the drapes. It's just meant to be. It just becomes a part of reality. And of course, it's only a matter of time before we begin to express those deeper subconscious tendencies. Let me know if that's making sense. Because, dude, if you can catch what I'm saying, even if you can't catch what I'm saying, like tonight's lab experiment, we need to handle another question. What happens when we dive deeper in awareness? I opened the show with an idea about, what happens if we could sink deeper than pain can go. What I'm saying is that when we get to this level of supreme awareness, this different dimension of it, we've been talking about supreme awareness this entire time. All the years I've been up on YouTube, all the years I've been writing up, we've been talking about it. Nothing about this is new. It's just deeper. You've probably heard me say these ideas before in some way. I'm saying the same thing, just deeper. It's a deeper level. One where rather than taking an hour or two or three to sit in meditation and figure out how to deal with all these different emotions, it's like, oh no, you can see the unfolding happening as the thought is occurring. You know how if you like drop some water onto a piece of paper, like the water kind of the surface tension of the paper will cause the water droplet to splash and refract, right? To split into pieces and parts. And so you drop one speck of water on a sheet of paper, you end up with, yeah, that one speck of water, but then you end up with several other smaller droplets along the perimeter of that one nucleus. But that's exactly precisely how a thought works, an emotion works. Every thought is giving rise to these other smaller droplets, and the smaller droplets are the ones that can guide and condition our behavior, and they're also the ones that are most likely to slip underneath the radar of our attention. What if we could investigate tonight? What if we could look tonight? What happens if we were to sink deeper into awareness? You saw what happened with Brian. We take that moment just to make him present just for a second. And he somehow, when there's only that awareness, there's nothing else to. By present, we mean being conscious of this moment. Conscious of this moment is the same thing as saying being aware. By being aware, he sees that there's nothing. He is now in a position where he can deal with his emotions in an effective way. That's the whole heart of transcendent psychology, is to put consciousness back in the center of our psychological experience. In other words, you have to put spirituality back into the center of our psychological experience. When I say spirituality, I'm talking about reality itself. I'm talking about consciousness itself. You understand? I'm talking about love itself, frankly. And so tonight, well, we gotta go but like, I've been using this the whole time, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like since last week, that run probably happened on like a Tuesday or something like this, dude. The whole week I've been deepening in this. The whole week I've been trying to see, okay, what happens when this thought appears? What's the cascading effect? What's the network effect? What happens after that? I have this conscious thought, but what are the subconscious thoughts? What's happening just on the perimeter of my own attention? What's happening just on the perimeter of my own ability, my own capacity to be aware of my own thoughts and feelings? I need to know, right? I need to know in the moment. I need to know in the moment that a thought hits, what trickles down from that joint. Because when I have these random thoughts, if it's AI generated, whatever, or whatever the thought of the day is, sometimes it could be something that somebody said to me that was negative. Or it could be something that somebody said 10 years ago, 20 years ago that was negative. And that'll pop up. And it's like, okay, what's really going on? But I want to be able to deal with it without having to ask the question. I want to simply allow the awareness to expand in such a way that no part is left out. So as we enter into the Conscious Transformation Laboratory tonight, that is our question and that is our exercise. What I'm interested in finding out tonight is what happens for real, when we sink deeper into awareness. I mean, what's really cool? Somebody let me know if that's making sense to you in the chat. Try and make that as clear as possible. Naturally, it is that time to head into our Conscious Transformation Laboratory. Twin saying definitely making sense. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Tanya in the chat. Hey, Tanya, what's happening? Okay, welcome in, welcome in. Folks, if you are just joining, we are about to. Okay, Twin saying, I mean, you could go deeper, but we understand. Well, then, I mean, we might just get there. You know what I'm saying? Like, a part of this is seeing and believing, champ. Like, if you would have told me what I'm saying last week, I don't know how I would have responded. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know. You know, I've been like, man, that sound right. You know what I'm saying? But I would have needed somebody to say, all right, let's turn it into an observation, a way for you to experience this for yourself, because we have to develop the experiment. We have to develop the capacity to look. This ain't something that you can just go get in a book, pimping. Like, this is something that you got to actually look at, see, and experience for yourself. Can't nobody write this down. Somebody can write it down for you, but it doesn't mean anything until it means something for you. It don't mean nothing until you can do it. It's like somebody being able to do double backflips and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, but don't have me do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, until it is your experience. Hmm, what that mean? What that mean? That's why we take our time with these experiments. And it is that time in the show where we go into the Conscious Transformation Laboratory. This is the place where we get the moment to observe for ourselves, where we get the moment to see reality for ourselves. And we're going to use ourself as the site of investigation. That's why at this time, this is the moment to find a place that's quiet. If you can put the kids up, put the kids up. If the kids are old enough to join, then you know what I'm saying, come kick it. But we need to find a place that's quiet where you can make this journey, make this investigation, because we are going into the lab. A note, when we go into the Conscious Transformation Laboratory, I am not coming out with the stuff that I know works. The Conscious Transformation Laboratory is the place to discover something new. You want what I know, what you gotta go and there's plenty of places to go find the stuff that is the tried and true. But on the Breakthrough Live, I'm interested in having a breakthrough live, which means that every single thing that we do is experimental. If this is your first time working with any sort of inner work, do be patient with yourself, because Lord knows I have to be. Because just like you, I'm going to be going through this experience for the first time. And you're invited to follow along. If you're seated in a chair, you are sitting on the edge of your chair, feet firmly planted on the floor, hands close to your knees, back straight. I like to imagine an invisible string coming from the ceiling and attaching into the crown of my head. And that invisible string is holding my entire body up. This small visualization keeps my back straight, which allows for stronger blood flow, greater oxygenation, and more potent energy flow. I find it helpful to place my tongue at the tip of my tongue at the roof of my mouth. Feel free to do the same. If you are standing feet shoulder width apart, back straight, hips slightly tucked in. That same invisible string coming from the ceiling, attaching into the crown of your head and holding your body up. If you are laying flat on your back, head tilted slightly upwards, back straight, hands by your side. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are going into the conscious transformation laboratory. You may close your eyes. Take one deep breath in with me. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. At this time, ask yourself the question, am I aware? As you stare at the darkness behind your eyes, see that the answer is yes. Ask yourself, am I aware? Look now. See that the answer is yes. On the count of three, I want you to think about one of the most difficult images that you've seen in the last week or in your life. You must be brave with this exercise. On the count of three, recall that image. See it in your mind's eye. Keep in mind that as long as you are aware, No image can hurt you. That is important. I repeat, as long as you are aware, no image can hurt you. When you are ready, call that image forth on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. As the image appears to you, become aware of the image itself, the colors, the look, but also become aware of the immediate reaction that you feel in your body, especially your torso, the moment you see this image in your mind's eye. Notice the shape of this feeling as you hold this image in your mind's eye. Allow your awareness to simply be aware of both the image in your mind's eye and the feeling reaction that you experience when you bear witness to this image in your mind's eye. Notice that for awareness, both the image and its attendant feeling are mere pictures and sensations appearing now. No image or sensation can ever hurt awareness. Awareness is simply aware. As you experience both this image and its reactive feeling, as you experience this image and the reactive feeling, see if you can also become aware of the feelings that are birthed from your first reaction. It is as if your reactive feeling also has a reactive feeling attached to it. See if you can identify it. Notice all of the feelings that surround any emotion in your body. As you recall this image, this difficult image, notice your feeling reaction. Then notice the reactions that feeling gives rise to. You do not need to try hard to look. Simply allow all feelings to appear as you hold this difficult image in your mind's eye. See if you can notice how feelings give way to feelings, how emotions give way to other emotions. Watch the process unfold within yourself. Simply remain as this awareness and allow the process to unfold. Return attention to that image in your mind, that difficult image, so that you can experience the body's reaction and the reactions to the reactions. See if you can witness how initial emotions give rise to deeper emotions. Notice how the feeling of disgust gives rise to the feeling of anger, which gives rise to the feeling of sadness. But also notice that you, as awareness, this awareness, is neither angry, disgusted, or sad. That's because this awareness is simply aware. From time to time, return to that difficult image and allow for all the emotions to appear in sequence to you. Watch as they do, knowing, of course, that no emotion can hurt awareness, because awareness is simply aware. No image can hurt awareness, because awareness is simply aware. Notice how the feeling of tightness in the chest gives way to the feeling of anxiety that stretches up through the neck and into the temples, the sides of the head. Notice too that all of this movement are merely the flow of sensations appearing before awareness. They cannot hurt awareness, for awareness is always simply aware. Notice the power that comes when you see awareness remain peaceful and just itself, regardless of whatever image or emotions appear before awareness. Notice that awareness is never agitated and is therefore always at peace. As any thought or feeling appears to you, see if you can become aware of not only the thought or feeling that appears to you, but all of the subsequent thoughts and feelings that also appear to you in response. Watch thought and feelings as if they come in chains, as if they come in multiples. Simply stand watch as awareness, knowing, of course, that no amount of thoughts and no amount of feelings and no amount of emotions can stop awareness from being aware. Thoughts, feelings, emotions do not have any power over awareness. Yet awareness remains at peace, simply itself, regardless of what thoughts, feelings, and emotions appear. What story can you catch yourself telling? Or rather, what story is appearing before awareness in regard to this difficult image that you are holding in your mind's eye? Become aware of the story, all of the assumptions attached to it, all of the emotions attached to it, and simply be aware. Not even this story can stop awareness from being aware, which means not even this story can agitate awareness. Thus, awareness is always at peace, and you are that. When new thoughts and new disturbances appear to you, simply allow them to appear to you like clouds passing through the sky. They cannot hurt you. because they cannot agitate awareness. Simply remain aware. At this time, imagine that your awareness stretches the entire universe. Imagine that no matter where you move, what movement occurs, what thoughts occur, what emotions occur, what travel occurs, your awareness, you as awareness, are unmoved. You are simply aware. Notice how large a thought can appear to you right now. Notice that thoughts are as nothing compared to awareness. This cosmic, infinite awareness. All of time will come and go before this awareness. Rest here. Take one deep inhale in with me. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Hmm. Folks, I'd love to know your experience working in the lab tonight. For me, I feel charged up in a cool way. Like I just had a Red Bull or something, but not in the kind of jittery way, but just like in a energized way. During the exercise, there were fireworks going off. I live downtown, so there's fireworks going off. I don't like to date the show, but it's that time of year for fireworks. The fireworks are kind of sudden, and so fireworks kind of sound like weapons going off. And so I was like, okay, a little bit of that, those thoughts, what's going on outside, all that, and then the subsequent thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, all of that stuff as it appearing as a chain reaction, but all of it simply observed by awareness, and there was no concern, there was no fear. There was a little bit of a startle reflex, but no fear. Because the awareness was aware before the fear could become believable. Before my mind could believe it, there was too much awareness, too much attention on the entire inner psychic phenomenon, the inner psychic ecosystem. There was too much attention on it for fear to appear. And so as I was dealing with that difficult image, for me, I just went back to the breakthrough turtle, you know what I'm saying? The AI image joint. And I got to see all of those thoughts, feelings, and emotion appear in twos and threes and fours. They appeared as couplets and triplets and quadruplets. But to awareness, they were all simply just sensations coming and going. And so there just remained this ability, this capacity to remain at peace. My mind at this point is having serving the thought of, oh, well, how fast can I do this? Right? Can I do this? How quickly can this work? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I have to always be in a deep meditative state? And even the thought itself, I can see is coming from a sequence of other thoughts that say, hey, look, if this is going to be practical, it better be fast, it better be quick and easy. What happens if I get into XYZ situation? Is this going to work at that point? I can see all of those, all that chain reaction of thinking happening in a single instant. And because there's attention and awareness and the understanding that this sequence of thought is merely a sequence of ideas flowing before awareness, it never has the time to germinate, to give rise to true fear, to true concern. I just, what I'm saying? I'm not even interested in answering the question for myself. I'm only interested in allowing awareness to witness, bringing awareness and attention into this inner psychic experience, these cascading thoughts and emotions that happen upon any type of thought or emotion. Thoughts and emotions typically don't come in just one. If it does, you would forget that. The issue is when it happens, you have a thought, you have an emotion, and then it starts connecting up with your entire understanding of yourself. It starts connecting up with your identity. It don't do that in a single thought. It does it in twos, threes, fours, fives. This thought connects to this thing about your past, connects to this thing about your parents' past, connects to this thing about a certain situation you never forgave yourself for, and all of a sudden now you're dealing with a network effect of negativity. And so in this case, just to bring awareness to the entire process. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, I started feeling it, dude. Twin saying, I finally let go and felt a floating sensation. Yes, same fireworks and rain. Right, right, right. Yeah. You said you let go and felt a floating sensation. That's what I like to hear. That floating sensation is your own energy, like a liberated consciousness. That's beautiful. Other twin is saying it was more of a calming for me, a state of being or place. Not sure on that, but I felt arrived, and if that makes any sense. Right? Yeah, right, right, right. Arrived, arrived, arrived. Dude, I just felt like, oh man, like, I got into all of this when I kept having this sensation, this feeling. I mean, this is 20 years ago, but like, what if we could turn our minds? What if we could experience heaven on earth? What if no matter what was happening, we could have a peace that could pass all understanding? You dig what I'm saying? The peace that passeth all understanding. What if that was for real, for real? And so that's what I started feeling. I felt it many, 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 many times, but even daily. But again, there's levels to this. There's levels to it. It's like bigger and bigger and bigger dragons could you face? Bigger and bigger and bigger dragons do I feel now capable of facing because I know where the source of pain is always. You understand? And so being able to put this awareness onto this network effect of thoughts and feelings. Ah, so profound. What so profound. I mean, it's taken 16 years. We've been doing the Breakthrough Live for, you know what I'm saying? Like what? This is our 36th episode. So, you know what I'm saying? I guess, 7 months, whatever the case is, but like, I'm just now getting to this level of depth in understanding because I wouldn't have had a chance to do this kind of, you know what I'm saying? This is like when like yeah, I do the experimenting, but it takes working by myself. It takes a little longer to somehow it takes a little longer than what this has been. And so the insights that come through is just like, oh wait, yeah, I can see the flow of these sensations and they exist as networks. It's never just one. So it's never like, okay, let me just go back and you might work with a specific memory, but you're going to work with the attendant cluster of thoughts and emotions and feelings that come with that memory. This part we knew. The part that was new for the experience tonight is that that cluster gets created the moment the thought is happening. It is activated the moment the thought is happening. And so to be able to bring awareness to that process in the moment the thought is occurring, in the moment all of its subsequent thoughts are occurring, in the moment all of its subsequent feelings and emotions are emerging. And to be able to see it all as just the mere flow of sensations, that's a totally different power. I must trust that you understand. I can't make it any more plain than that. The only question is it your experience? And for me, tonight I'm just thinking like, man, there's such an ability to be patient even. I'm a person that thinks in pictures, which means I can speak very quickly because I'm seeing the thought faster than words typically can flow for me. But, in life, I've been a person who's tried to get things out quickly, tried to speak very fast, just because I wanted to make sure that people would not stop paying attention. But what I'm saying is that even those little small behavioral patterns, they are attached to a sequence of unconscious and assumed feeling patterns and thought patterns that have tonight been made conscious. Not because everything is appearing to me at all at once, but in the sense that this capacity to take attention deeper than I ever could before has emerged. It's a little like you do the splits, like, what I'm saying? If you ever tried to literally do the splits, with your legs, like whatever your range of mobility is at the moment, your flexibility, like if you continue to stretch, if you continue to train, if you continue to push that capacity, you can get further and further and deeper and deeper. No different than what I'm talking about now when it comes to awareness. It's just like, more and more you get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. More and more I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. If you try and force it, you know what I'm saying? If you try and force yourself into a split, you're gonna tear something. The same thing is likely true for this. It's just that when these new levels of attention unlock, these new levels of depth unlock, it is miraculous. It's like, oh man, right, right. Even on the show, there's like levels of depth. Like, you know what I'm saying? Every week we go deep to a degree, and then some weeks are just like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm clearly in a new terrain. It's not that the ideas are new, just the depth. Only the depth is new. Oh, okay, folks. Yeah, we got to hit the breakthrough board. Let's go ahead and yeah, we got to hit the breakthrough board because I want to be able to find out what the principle is tonight, what the pattern is tonight, and what the path forward is on tonight. And so at this time, let us now turn to the principle, the pattern, and the path. All right. So I'm working with the breakthrough board. And tonight we need to work with this notion of the principle, pattern, the path. I like to teach from principle because once I can understand the principle behind a phenomenon, then I can architect my own steps forward, no matter whatever else I know or don't know. And so I like to work from principle first. Tonight, we're going to be working with this principle, but first we have to discover what this principle is. In order to discover the principle, I have to turn within. Again, if you're just joining, our question tonight was our lab question tonight was what happens when we dive deeper into awareness? Beyond the depths of all psychological loss, all psychological pain, whether it be about my cousin or whether it be about Brian's loss of love that we saw at the top of the show. Excuse me. So we need to identify this principle. What happens when we go deeper into awareness? What happens when we dive deeper into awareness? What's the principle? Okay, it's coming a little quick tonight. Say it like this. When we go deeper into awareness, the principle of the night is this, that awareness equals oh, uh, that awareness equals the untouched. That was the experience for me tonight. That awareness itself is the untouched, that which cannot be assaulted, agitated, or disturbed by any thought, visualization, emotion, or feeling that the human body mind ecosystem can experience, that any body mind ecosystem can experience. Because awareness is aware, it itself is always only itself, always unagitated, which means the absence of agitation is the presence of peace. Awareness is always peaceful. Okay. So our principle is that awareness is the untouched, that which cannot be agitated, which means it is the perfect one upon which to base our psychological understanding of self and root ourselves in so that we can deal with The flow of ideas, thoughts, perceptions, and sensations as they appear to the human organism. Only in putting awareness back at the center of our psychological foundation can we do what most people can only dream of doing, which is to access permanent peace, permanent happiness that isn't contingent on us reading a book of some sort or being told by someone else who to praise or whatever the deal is. It don't have to be all that. It can be this return to this ultimate one, this faceless one, this untouched one. As we know, the ancients had many names for this one. But the term God is the one that is most familiar to the humans of the modern moment. And so this return to God, this return unto peace, this surrender unto the Holy Spirit, which we could say the supreme consciousness. Spirit is just another word for consciousness, right? So Holy Spirit is that undivided consciousness, that untouched, unblemished consciousness. You understand? So we can understand that the principle of the night is that awareness equals the untouched one and is therefore a firm foundation, the only foundation upon which to base our psychological capacities, our ability to actually deal with reality, including the flow of sensations, ideas, perceptions, our notions of the past, our conceptions of the future. We deal with them in the present from the standpoint of this awareness, and we find that we unlock a new power, which is the ability to see reality clearly. Okay. So we have our principle that awareness is the untouched. That is a principle. That's almost a principle of the principles of the principles. That's a principle like that's a principle. But now we also want the pattern. What is the pattern? What is the pattern for the evening? The pattern, of course, is that sequence of events that gets us into trouble in the first place. When I can recognize a pattern, I can interrupt a pattern. When I can recognize a problematic pattern, I can circumvent that pattern. I can break that pattern. I can transform that pattern. But first, I must recognize what the pattern is. And tonight, we're asking that very question. We understand our question for the evening was what happens when we dive deeper in awareness? Uh-huh. We get to our principle, which is that awareness is the untouched. But what is our pattern? What is the issue? What's the reason that we get into trouble in the first place? Man, it's that, bro. So this is about to be super simple because hold on. So I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna just put it like this right here. All right. So the pattern, for real, is this right here. It is this network effect of thoughts and feelings. I'm including emotions inside of feelings as well, right? That whenever we have a single thought, it never comes by itself. It always starts to give birth to all of these different thoughts. And then these thoughts give rise to these different emotions. And then these different emotions give rise to these different feelings. And the issue is that we're really only, if we're lucky, if you've been meditating, if you have been paying attention to your inner life, if you have been spending time with God, if you have been following up, if you have been doing it the way that a sane human would approach reality, look, you might be aware of this one step, champ, and straight up miss this one and 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 this one. And what happens is that this network effect, the fact that this lends itself unto this, which lends itself unto this, which lends itself unto this, which lends itself unto this, all of these, this cascading effect of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions, they end up creating a kind of taken for grantedness. We can say, okay, well, we disagree with this one thought. I don't like having that one thought, and then go busy ourselves with the alcohol, go busy ourselves with uh, 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 a movie or TV or even a spiritual book. And we end up missing all of this phenomenon over here. And the problem is that once this rises to the level of assumption, once these tertiary, secondary, and tertiary feelings and thoughts just become a core part of how we see reality, they give rise to assumptions. And what is the difference between an assumption and a belief? The assumption shapes your beliefs about reality. I got assumption, I got a big old arrow pointing over here. The assumptions shape your beliefs. The assumptions are your beliefs about reality. They become unquestioned assumptions that just happen to operate in the background of experience, quietly goading your behavior toward events and circumstances that you would not choose were you simply aware at the start. And not just at the start, but throughout the entire process. You would have chosen differently were you but aware. That's why returning to awareness, our principle is that awareness is the untouched. Returning to that awareness, it gives us the appropriate starting point to catch this network effect, to interrupt this network effect. And so, folks, our principle of the evening is that awareness is the untouched. Our pattern, the reason we get into trouble in the first place is because our thoughts and feelings, they have a network effect to them, champ. They give rise not only to other thoughts, emotions, and feelings, but those thoughts, emotions, and feelings, unquestioned, become assumptions. Those assumptions serve as our fundamental beliefs about reality, which quietly guide and shape our actions. I need you to see that. I need you to see that. I'm making it as plain as I can. I need you to see that. Let me know if that's not making sense. Let's go ahead and start there. Let me know if that's not making sense. So we out here cooking. When it comes to our principle, our question of the evening, of course, is that what happens when we dive deeper into awareness? Our principle is that awareness is the untouched. Our pattern, the reason we get into issue in the first place, the reason we get into trouble in the first place is because thoughts, feelings, emotions, they give rise to these network effects. And the network effects are so easy to ignore and to go unconscious. And when they do, they create assumptions about reality which build our beliefs, and those beliefs build our actions. So, what's the path forward? How do we move beyond? How do we move beyond? Dude, I'm gonna try and say it's as simply as possible. The path forward tonight is be aware of the network. You must become aware of that network effect. If you can become aware of that network effect, become aware of the fact that a thought gives rise to other thoughts. Emotions give rise to other emotions. You want to just be able to track that sequence. As these start to germinate, you want to just be able to track the sequence. You don't need to try and control the sequence. Just become aware of the sequence. That is enough to see that, wait a minute, this sequence is just programming. It's just a part of what happens with the current level of hominid evolution. Like, this has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with the deep divine. In fact, awareness itself is the untouched. That's the principle. And because I and awareness are one, if awareness goes away, I certainly do. So I and awareness are one. I remain untouched. This network cannot affect me as long as I am aware. As long as I am aware and I know the principle of the evening, which is that awareness is always untouched, never agitated, and therefore is always at peace. To become aware of this network effect is to become detached from the network effect. Awesome. Awesome, folks. Wow. Hmm. That's it. I mean, that's the beauty. That's the beauty. If you can understand this, I can only imagine what worlds open up to you. I can only imagine. Hmm. Well, folks, oh man, hold on. Y'all said it's raining out, but y'all hear that knocking? Hold on, dude. Y'all know. I think y'all know what time it is, man. We were just about to close out the show, but then you know who's coming through. It's Breakthrough Turtle. Every week, Breakthrough Turtle comes through on Divine Turtle Time. This week, Breakthrough Turtle says that he's got something special for us that is going to relate to tonight's experiment and discovery. But of course, in order to get that breakthrough, first we gotta break him open. Go ahead, Breakthrough Turtle. Let me see what you got this week, champ. Mm. Bang. Okay. All right. Let me see him in there. Mm. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Breakthrough Turtle. They got the turtles in the chat, B. Oh my gosh. They got the turtles in the chat. They said AOB, bring the knowledge. Absolutely. Y'all got the pizzas in the chat. They got the pizzas in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Break the Turtle been on a diet. But you can still do the pizza though. Okay, so here we go. So Break the Turtle just gave us this. All right, B. So okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. What you are is God's gift to you. What you become is your gift to God. Hans Urs von Balthasar. Okay, Breakthrough Turtle, I think you're trying to get us somewhere. I think you're trying to get us somewhere. Twin saying, I'm not you're not turtle enough for the turtle club. Okay, all right, twin. Come on. Be serious, bro. Break the turtle trying to give us something. He's saying what you are is God's gift to you. What you become is your gift to God. Mm. Okay, one more time. What you are is God's gift to you. What you become is your gift to God. Let's handle the first part. What you are is God's gift to you. That idea that our very beingness, the very capacity to be self aware, to understand that to exist, to be able to even utter the phrase I am, that very gift of living is God's gift to you, okay? But what you become is your gift to God. To become is your gift to God. Mm. Y'all remember that time that I accidentally took all those psychoactive compounds and I started tripping out. And in the mix of that psychological whirlwind, I flew into a panic attack, and then this door flew open, and through it, I saw all of eternity resting on a bed of love. In other words, that capacity to say I am, that is that capacity to being, our very beingness, is itself a gift from God. But when we are willing to strip away, I noticed that when I was willing to see reality clearly, to strip away everything that was coming from a false perception of reality, when I was willing to throw away the very illusion of separation, it was like if God is love, then when I throw away the very illusion of separation, I too can abide in love. And in that way, I reflect God back to God. When I am steeped in this love and this clear understanding that there is no separation, when I am based and back inside of this cosmic awareness, I reflect to reality a picture of itself. I become a reflection of God to God because I'm simply reflecting that God essence back to the supreme ultimate. Because I am simply abiding in the supreme ultimate with no delusions or illusions of separation. In other words, in the Christian church, they used to say, more of you, God, less of me, which just meant to say that though this body exists, let it be so powered by the truth that there is no longer a distinction between the movements of this body and the very movements of the truth, that they are one and the same, that the only gift to God is God. because there is nothing else. There simply isn't anything else other than the ultimate to the ultimate, which means when you dissolve yourself back into the ultimate, you become that very gift back to the ultimate. You understand? You become that very reflection of the ultimate, which itself is the gift to the ultimate. The fact of being is God's gift to you. The fact of removing all that is unessential, removing all delusion so that only God's truth shines in you is your gift back to God. You understand? So shit. Break the turtle. Appreciate you, B. Mm. Quinn saying I believe that hundredfold. Twin saying that's truly special. I mean, to who you that means you are everything, the literal I am, the actual cosmos itself, but one must fully give themselves to it. I'm hearing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, folks. What an evening. And tonight, just walking away, or rather remaining in this clear awareness, divorced of illusion, is itself mirroring back to God, a reflection of God. And there's no ego in that because there's no separate self to aggrandize. There's no separate self to aggrandize in the first place. So there is no, oh, me, not you. There is no you, not him. There's just this awareness remaining as itself, the clear I am. And in that, I think you can understand that if fear is our only enemy, then we bring heaven to earth when we transform our minds. I'm Dr. Shawn, and we were not sent to impress our people. We were sent to transform our people into a light for the world. For God's universe opens to all who believe in breakthrough.